Okay, next, group 1 will be presenting their paper. Time is yours, group 1. Loading. Tolong pegangkan dulu ini saya buka. Pegangkan dulu. Tidak, biar yang di belakang. Yang di Tommy presenter. Yang goyang, ya. Ini saya.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Oke, once again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I would like to say thanks to give a chance to us to present our discussion. And then let me introduce our group. We are from group 1, consists of 4 people here, namely Mem Masita, Mem Indah Nurlaili, Mem Rizky Rahayu, and then myself, Satriani. To make the time effective, I would like to give a chance to our first presenter to present about language and society. The first presenter is Mem Rizky Rahayu. Time is yours.
Okay.
What's wrong?
I will explain about definition of language and society. In language, linguistic Edward Sapir described language truly human and non-instructive method of communicating ideas, emotion, and desires by means of a system of voluntary produced symbols. And then society. In society, sociologists Emile Durkheim define it as a complex structure made up of social institution and collective norms that guide human behavior. And the next correlation between the first tools of communication, language as a tool communication as a primary tools of communication to express thought, emotion, and idea and to facilitate interaction in the society. In social interaction, effective communication is essential for social interaction. Language facility cooperation, negotiation, and the establishment of social bonds. It enables individuals to share experience, resolve conflict, and build relationship. Mati lampu lagi. Mati lampu. Okay. In social structure and class, language can divide social structure and class in society. And the next explain will be explained by Mem Masita. Time yours. Culture identity, and in this culture identity or identity for uh, in specific language, for example, a language influence people how they see themselves and interact with others in the society. People can see the culture of others through their language. For example, if we mengunjungi sebuah tempat, we meet and the local people, and after that we listen their speak, and after that we can ask them, where do you come from? Where do you come from? And then they said, they are from, example, they are from Palu. So we can think, they are Kailinese, so they speak in Kailinese. And another example for we go to Morowali. Yeah, in Morowali, we can know the culture, the identity from their language. Okay, next.
Has a gender perspective in society. Men and women might speak differently because of what society expect of them. So there is an expectation in society that maybe the men will speak more in maybe in high tone on, or the women is speak more soft like that. Uh, Men are expected to speak or directly. For example, if men see the fat girl, maybe, for example, they will say, "You are fat." They speak direct. What they think, what they speak is what they think. But women are expected to speak more empathetic. For example, if they see someone who fat, they will not say the that that people is fat or something like that. They will be more empathy to them. Next, men are expected to less expressive for their emotion. Men never speak to express their emotion. For maybe they are sad, they will not say that they are sad. But women more open about their feeling. If they are sad, they will cry and talk to other that they are in sadness. Next, the way men and women communicate can change how others view them, sometimes based on stereotypes. The man is expected to speak forcefully. So if men speak forcefully in high tone, the people will think that they are a leader. But if men speak passive, the people will think that they are weak. But if women speak soft in low tone, so the people might think that so the people will be expect that the women is lovable, is caring like that. But if they are speak more directly, attractive, and like that, the people will think that they are aggressive or feminine. This example illustrate that how language influence the perfection of gender in society. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The last part of this presentation will be delivered by by me. Next point is social structure and class. What is social structure here? It is the how the society is organized, influence how people interact in communication. So here we usually see one ethnic divided the structure of their society into some level. For example, a royal level and medium and low level of society. Let me speak in bahasa Indonesia. Contohnya in our environment, in my environment as Bugis ethnic, sebagai seorang Bugis, saya merasakan adanya perbedaan strata sosial, and this social structure influence the how to use the language, our language, our ethnic language in communication. For example, royal family atau high level structure, orang-orang di level tertinggi itu, they use the language by their dialect. Artinya ada dialek khusus atau cara pengucapan atau rasa bahasa dari level tertinggi. Sedangkan untuk orang-orang level yang di bawah itu level rakyat jelata, they will use their accent, their dialect itself that construct for that level. Artinya ada separated structure in society and separated structure in language. So that's why language and society influence each other. And that, what about social class? Social class, this refers to the level of society in like income and education. Of course, orang-orang yang berpendidikan, the educational people will speak differently will non-educational people. Di sini maksudnya ya, orang-orang yang berpendidikan pastinya cara berbahasanya akan berbeda dengan orang yang tidak berpendidikan. Ya, bukan dikatakan tidak berpendidikan, tapi yang mempunyai strata pendidikan di bawah orang-orang yang benar-benar expert dalam bahasa. Jadi contohnya di keluarga saya ya, in my family, orang-orang yang berpendidikan, yang guru lebih nyambung ngomong dengan yang guru ketimbang dengan yang bukan guru, seperti itu. So this is the social class in language. Terus dalam hal income atau in economic, orang-orang ekonomi of course more can interact well than in non-economic people. Artinya sesuai dengan disiplin masing-masing, keahlian masing-masing. That is the separated class in language. And then social issue. We will explain three social issue here. Firstly is about power and equality. It means that in the society we will find out one ethnic language or international language will dominate the other language. For example, English. English is an international language and it is dominating in the world. Artinya ada power yang berperan di sini. Maybe the policy so that this language dominates in the even in the narrow area or in the some area or in the large area. Jadi and it will be a trigger for discriminating and inequality. kadang-kadang bahasa yang mendominasi akan menjadi trigger atau penyebab dari sebuah kesenjangan in the society, inequality and discriminating. Akan ada diskriminasi terhadap bahasa lain yang dianggap minority. That is considered minority. And the next, culture shock. Ini yang paling sering kita temukan, the culture shock. When Javanese people come to Morowali, they will shock to find out our dialect is we speak in the high tone than they're speaking. Mereka terkejut, ternyata kita di sini we speak slowly. It's like we are angry like that because the high tone. Ya, karena mereka menganggap ini menjadi culture shock untuk orang-orang di luar. Kenapa? Apakah mereka are they angry like that? The fact that we are just speak like usual, seperti itu. Jadi mereka menganggap sepertinya kita marah. Padahal in the fact that no, this is the communication, the casual communication, because they have different dialect or different tone in speaking with us. And the last is the social issue about change and adaptation. Change and adaptation. Ini yang sering kita temukan. In my area, in my working area, there are some ethnic language, for example, Balinese and Javanese. Sometimes I can saya tidak bisa lagi, I can differ between is it Balinese or is it Javanese language. Because there is assimilation or acculturation of the two or more culture, karena ada asimilasi atau akulturasi dari beberapa bahasa penggabungan yang dari beberapa kultur menghasilkan bahasa baru yang mereka ciptakan dari perpaduan, the combination of two or more culture. So they create new language from that combination. Itulah kadang kita telinga kita sudah it is difficult. My ears are difficult to differ. Is it Balinese or is it Javanese? That's why, karena mereka berbicara dengan mixed language seperti itu. So that's why this is one of social issue, how the language change and do adaptation with the culture in the area. Okay. So this is our conclusion here. Our conclusion here, in a sense, language and society influence each other constantly. It means that where the language is still used in a society, so that they will influence each other in many aspects. And this ongoing interaction is essential for understanding the richness of human culture and communication. Ini memiliki memiliki dampak atau memiliki kontribusi untuk kekayaan dari budaya dari manusia dan juga kekayaan dari komunikasi itu sendiri, and the richness of the language itself. Okay, that's all our presentation from group 1, sir. Thank you very much for your attention, and
That's it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Very fascinating, inspiring, insightful thought from group 1.
Group 1.
They discuss language and society. They also incorporate the content of culture shock. When an ethnic group, for example, have their own style of
Yes.
language, speech,
Yeah.
high intonation.
High Indonesia.
People from other places, when they move to Bungkuk
Morowali.
and they get shocked, culture shock. We learn sociolinguistic, we learn the language and the culture as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, move on to group 2. Group 2, I would like to invite group 2.
Who will be the first? Moderator? The first.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so our group have discussed about language planning and language policy. So our group consists 4 members actually, but our friend Ernie Supu having another activities. So the first presenter we are Ma'am Yudit, and then I as the second presenters, and then the last presenter is Ma'am Huzaima. So the first presenters I would like to to invite her. Please, Ma'am Yudit.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. The first, we will going to discuss about what is language planning. So, based on James, language planning is the strategy to achieve or the way to implement the language policy. It talks about the activities to influence the community's communication system. In this case, we know that the language almost extinct. So, what the government have to do to face this case? Government have some plans to preserve the local language. They have some strategies. So in this language planning, government will do the strategies that to preserve the local language, because when the local language is endangered, we will lose of our identity. That's all about the language planning. So the second speaking, I give.
So, in this case, we talk about why we talk about language planning, because we talk about how the local language exists. So here, our some example language planning to preserve the language, the local language, especially for the local language. Here's in Morowali, the government, the local government have already provided the educators or teachers at school, facilitate them training to teach local language. And then also they construct any dictionary for local language. And then the educators make teaching material to teach at school. And then also the local government have already provide art show like dancing by using local dancing. And then there is a storytelling actually about the legend of Morowali. And then also singing local language songs. Okay, the next presenter, Ma'am Huzaima, please, time is yours.
Okay, let me continue the explanation. So when we talk about language planning, we talk also about the types of language planning. There are 3 types of language planning. First is status planning. The status planning here, how the government see the role of the language. For example, the local language, like Bungkunis, should we promote this language or dispromote? Mau kita angkat menjadi pamor suatu daerah atau kita mau hilangkan ya dari statusnya ya. And then the second is corpus planning. Ya, corpus planning it focus on the development of the language itself, like for example, creating a new dictionary, grammatical rule of the language, or reform the spelling. Yeah, like Ma'am Anggun said, the last month, the government Pemda Morowali have facilitated some teachers to make module, module which is used in every school to teach, material which is used to teach, the example of corpus planning by government. And then the last types of language planning is acquisition planning. Here it's focused on the how we want to increase the number of the speaker of the certain language, penutur, ingin meningkatkan jumlah penutur. For example, we want to increase the number of penutur bahasa Bungku. So what would you like to do? The government plan to implement the local language in as one subject in school, So it is the acquisition planning. That's the 3 type of language planning. Ada lagi? Okay, we still have the one language policy, kebijakan bahasa. Actually, they are interconnected, closely related between language planning and language policy. Because language planning is used to implement the language policy. As we know, language policy is just like guidelines or regulation is used to influence the structure or the use or how we acquire the language. And in language policy itself is comes from the problem in language. There is a problem in language. For example, certain local is in danger. So the government may make the what we call language policy, kebijakan berbahasa, to solve the problem of the language, to solve the problem. But before implemented the kebijakan tersebut, the government need to make the language planning itself. So we cannot separate between language planning and language policy. That's from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Group 2. Next, we would like to move on to the next group, Group 3. Last but not least.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for the chance. This is the turn of our group. We are from Group 3, consists of 5 members. The first speaker is Umi Kalsum. The second speaker is Mutia Mutmaina. The third speaker is Lilis Norma. And the last speaker is Nilu Sukarini. Our topic is about bilingualism, multilingualism, and bilingual education. So this is the Umi Kalsum turn to explain to you about the first part. Please.
Let's say our overview today, we are talking about the definition and distinctions of the bilingualism, and then next the types of the bilingualism, multilingualism. The third is reason for becoming bilingual or multilingual.
Sebelum kita lanjut, memang gitu. We are influenced by, so just generalization. Beli aqua, semua dibilang aqua. Kemudian food stall, food vendor yang jualan di pinggir jalan, food vendor, itu bilang Mas Joko. Semua Mas Joko, biar Lamongan, semua mereknya Mas Joko. I don't know, that's language, that's social linguistic.
Like that, sir. In focus.
In focus semua, biar mereknya apa. Yeah, that's interesting. That's also
Is the brand.
that's the brand. Ya, kalau di Medan, kalau motor dibilang Honda, semua Honda. Mobil semua dibilang kereta. Itu menarik untuk kajian sosiolinguistik ya. Oke, lanjut. Kita lanjut dulu. Baru sebentar tanya jawab ya. Three. Time is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Today, I'm going to talk about bilingualism and multilingualism. So, the bilingualism is the person who can spoken two languages fluency. Okay, there are two types of bilingualism. They are sequentially and simultaneous. Simultaneous means when they are talk bilingualism, two language, when they get those language when they are birth, and sequently they get the second language after they are get the first language. In this case, the mother language. And multilingualism is the person who can spoken more than two languages, maybe three language. For example, in these participants of this class, we can spoke English first, Indonesian, local language maybe. Some of us have two or three kinds of local language. So in these participants, we can call we are the multilingualism persons. So we move to the next presenter.
Okay, of type. Okay, the first types is early bilingualism.
Ya, di situ bisa.
Early
Karena you are
bilingualism often learning the language in early childhood. This the child learn about two languages before 6 years old, and let bilingualism occurs when an individual learns a second language after the critical period of language acquisitions, generally at 6 or 7 years old. Unlike early bilingualism, the first language is already well established by the time the second language is introduced. Late bilingualism often happens in adolescence or adulthood. For example, when someone moves to a new country or learns a new language for educational or professional reasons. And the third is additive bilingualism. Additive bilingualism refers to situations where learning a second language doesn't interfere with or replace the first language. In these forms of bilingualism, the second language is seen as an asset, and proficiency in both language is balanced. And the fourth is subtractive bilingualism. Occurs when the second language replaces the first language, often resulting in a loss of proficiency in the mother tongue. This can happen when someone is immersed in an environment where the second language dominates, leading them to prioritize the second language over the first. And the fifth is
passive bilingualism. Passive bilingualism, also called receptive bilingualism, refers to a situations where an individual can understand a second language, but it's not able to speak or write it proficiently. This often happens when someone grow up hearing a language in their environment, but it's not actively taught to speak. And next slide, I will explain about reasons for becoming bilingual or multilingual. The first reason is migration. So someone can have a second language because because of moving to in a new environment and using a new languages. And the second is colonial influence. This is the reason because colonization spread dominant language, leading the multi-language societies. And the third is career advantages. Bilingualism provides job market benefits and higher employability. So they spoke in two languages. Okay, I think that's all, and I will move to next speakers, Ma'am Lilis.
Saya jelaskan simpel saja. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thanks for the chance. I want to continue the explanation of our group. It's about bilingual education. Bilingual education is a type of education where the students are taught in two languages. It means that the materials are delivered in two kinds of languages. The goals is to develop proficiency in both languages. It means that the students not only improve their skills in mastering their target language, but also their deeper understanding to their native language. And the second is to promote cultural understanding and appreciations. It means that to encourage people to learn about respect and belief or value of different cultures, which is involving a sense of empathy and tolerance to enhance which is involving a sense of empathy and tolerance towards individuals from diverse background. One way to achieve it is through education. And the third is to enhance cognitive development. It means that to improve students' mental ability, which is involving strengthening skills like critical thinking, memory, and creativity. By improving academic performance, students can increase their chance to success in the future. And then the types of bilingual education. The first is immersions. Students are taught almost exclusively in the second or target language. It means that while teaching, the teacher use almost English, in almost a meeting, the teacher just use English as, for example, Indonesia bahasa pengantar. It is
Instructional language.
yeah, instructional language, and it is have apa namanya? so that they have applied in international schools in Indonesia. And then maintenance, students continue to develop their first language while learning a second language. Like in Indonesia, we still learn about Indonesian language, even though we learn about English in And then the transitional students are initially taught in their first language and gradually transition in the second language. Okay, that's from me. And the next explanation will be explained Nilu Sukarini.
Yeah, Nilu, time is yours. Nanti lain bunyinya. Ya, aku say dulu. Just kidding. Jangan gini. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the chance. I would like to explain about the practice of bilingual education in Indonesia. The Indonesia government built a bilingual school with the goal of becoming RSBI or SBI as an innovative response to the problem of Indonesia. And RSBI are pioneer of international standard school, and while SBI are pioneer school that adhere to international standard. It is recommended to use this program in elementary, middle, and high school. In Indonesia, the bilingual curriculum was introduced in 2004 as an addition to the previous educational framework used in private school. And then English is used in various disciplines in the Indonesian bilingual curriculum. And then other subjects that use language in classroom activities, and it must be difficult to implement bilingualism in Indonesia. Okay, thank you. And
Okay, as a conclusion of the presentation about the topic from our group, we can say that bilingualism and multilingualism offer vast benefit such as cognitive and social, contributing to strengthen the brain function, better career opportunities, and also enhance the cultural understanding. So we have to support the bilingual and multilingual education programs to help foster these advantages. That's it, the result of our discussion with about the bilingualism, multilingualism, and the bilingual education. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, please. We move on to the question time. Every group is welcome to raise any question if you have to any group you want to ask. Yes, please.
Other can understand, mau pakai bahasa Indonesia juga bisa seperti itu. So you create something new. Okay, I think it's legal, and that's language. That's language. As long as it can be received, bisa diterima in the society. So I think it's legal. Itu legal untuk digunakan. Yeah.
It can be understood.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
You understand, I understand. Okay, that's communication. Iya. Karena saya rasa bahasa itu pernah populer di zaman kita ya. Mungkin sebagian dari kita lahir di era yang sama. It was very popular. Betul. Saya pernah merasakan di era itu. Era sebelum before digital era, dan kita menggunakan simbol, betul, ada simbol-simbol tertentu. Itu juga yang kami diskusikan tadi, apakah kita bisa berkomunikasi dengan di masa lalu masyarakat in the past society? Of course, kita bisa dengan simbol-simbol yang ada di prasasti, kita bisa we can understand about the social life, the social language in the past. Seperti itu. Jadi kita paham bahwa di masa lalu mereka itu kehidupannya seperti apa. So this is adaptation and change. Menurut saya, this is social issue. Oke, saya rasa sudah clear ya, karena the same experience.
Okay, anybody else? Any more question? No more. No more. Yeah. Well, that's it. Our class this afternoon, applied sociolinguistics. I was very impressed with the participation of master degree students. They look very enthusiastic, highly motivated, and nearly everybody speak up, give insightful, inspiring thoughts to the discussion. Alhamdulillah, the discussion lasted very well, and there are lots of feedbacks, inputs, aspiration, and education as well. I hope we can meet again, maybe next 2 weeks. And I pray for your colleagues, your friend.
Mr. Yusriyadi, sir.
Yeah, he's hospitalized now. Get well soon. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you still have time to discuss, we can continue. Okay. That's it. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan selamat sore. Umi Pak itu hanya Aba. Umi Kalsum tadi saya tidak sempat jelaskan tadi. Sebenarnya betul. Saya tertarik. Ada anak-anak sejak katakan toddler atau ya masih kecil ya. Dia kurang mendengar, menyimak. Ya. Itu bahasa kan imitating. Language acquisition ya. Itu language acquisition. Anak kecil tidak belajar bahasa, mereka acquiring language. Language acquisition, memperoleh bahasa melalui true imitation. What they hear every day. Their mom, their daddy, their mother, father, brother, sister, siblings speak up, and they hear and they imitate. They just acquire. If they never hear sounds or language, they cannot. How can they imitate? They cannot speak up. Jadi istilahnya jadi bisu. Anak-anak bisu karena tidak pernah mendengar atau telinganya deep, tuli, pongo kalau Anda bilang. Karena tidak pernah mendengar, menyimak sehingga jadi besar karena telinga kan. Dia jadi bisu. Berawal dari tidak pernah. Sama dengan tadi ceritanya ibunya Aba. Umi bercerita, sorry just kidding ya berkurang. Jadi kalau dia tidak, dia akan bicara isyarat karena tidak bisa. Bagaimana dia mau tiru bahasa kalau tidak pernah dia dengar apa yang. Makanya anak kecil memperoleh bahasa, bukan belajar, bukan language learning, tapi language acquisition. Kalau kita language learning, setelah besar mereka akan ke sekolah dan learning language. Ketika mereka, nah model komunikatif seperti saya wawancara dengan Prof. Mawardin, komunikatif, itu yang penekanan pada acquisition. Diibaratkan orang belajar bahasa itu seperti anak-anak. Dia mendengar, menyimak dan akhirnya menguasai bahasa itu. Tapi beda karena orang dewasa di otaknya tidak elastis lagi untuk ada Prof. Hasan dulu ajarkan itu. Ya, elastisitas sampai puberti masa 12 tahun. Ketika sudah 12 tahun anak-anak ya. Saya bawa anak saya waktu ke Australia. Mereka lebih cepat sekali belajar bahasa. Tidak belajar, memperoleh bahasa. Anak saya yang kecil, Ahmad Padilla dengan yang kakaknya Nurul Ayukati. Cepat sekali belajar bahasa sama teman-temannya. Cuma dengar-dengar saja boleh ngomong. Akhirnya memperoleh bahasa. Oh pasti sekali bahasa. Sampai sini lagi jadi masalah. Tidak bisa bahasa Indonesia. Oh itu masalah bahasa ya, anak-anak memperoleh bahasa bukan belajar bahasa. Tapi ketika mereka di atas 12 tahun, mereka belajar bahasa, language learning. Bukan lagi language acquisition. Makanya berawal dari bahasa pertama, first language, kemudian second language, dan third language atau foreign language. Anak-anak memperoleh bahasa. Ketika sekolah baru belajar bahasa. Ya. Jadi kita kalau belajar bahasa bisa language acquisition untuk anak-anak, language learning untuk orang dewasa, kemudian ada teknik ya. Ini sudah termasuk sosiolinguistik dan Taplin bergabung karena sudah tidak bisa dibedakan untuk pembelajaran bahasa, memperoleh bahasa. Kalau memperoleh bahasa itu language acquisition itu cenderung kita hubungkan dengan anak-anak memperoleh bahasa pertama, bahasa kedua, bahasa ketiga bahkan. Tapi mereka dibawa before puberty. Kalau pakar bahasa dan pakar psikologi bilang sebelum akil balik. Otak mereka left hemisphere yang mempelajari bahasa, kalau tidak salah otak sebelah kiri ya, left hemisphere. Mereka masih elastis, masih mudah menangkap bahasa, acquire. Iya, ada yang ini.
Bagaimana kan dikatakan kan sebelum 12 tahun mengajarkan bahasa. Bagaimana kalau kita biasakan anak-anak itu bingung bahasa, seandainya contoh anakku 2 tahun. Seandainya kita ajarkan mungkin ada teknik dari teman-teman bagaimana cara mengajarkan kayak 2 bahasa untuk anak kecil yang baru belajar bahasa. Nah contoh, kalau kita gunakan bahasa Indonesia, nah, dia mulai paham dengan bahasa Indonesia. Ketika kita ajarkan lagi dengan bahasa lain, contoh bahasa ibu atau mother tongue, nanti mereka akan bingung. Jadi pasti ya bagaimana caranya supaya mereka tidak bingung ketika kita mau mengajarkan 2 bahasa ke anak-anak itu. Mungkin ya.
Iya kan.
Begini, saya pengalaman di anak pertama saya itu waktu anakku itu masih 1 sampai 2 tahun itu dia baru mengenal yang namanya bahasa Indonesia karena hanya itu yang kita perdengarkan di rumah. Kemudian setelah 2 tahun kan dia mulai bersosialisasi, bermain. Setelah itu kadang dia pulang sudah menggunakan tiba-tiba sudah pakai bahasa daerah.
Nanti biasa kita kaget tiba-tiba
For example,
Ada kosakata baru.
ya, for example, momaleku begitu. Dia saya capek bahasa menui itu. Padahal kita tidak ajar, tapi dia mendapatkan itu secara tidak sadar dari lingkungannya dia bermain. Jadi jadi anak saya pikir ya setelah saya amati, saya tidak perlu mengajarkan bagaimana caranya dia berbahasa karena dia akan meniru apa saja yang dia dengarkan. Kemudian setelah dia 3 tahun lebih, ya setelah dia 3 tahun lebih, dia bahkan mulai paham bahasa Inggris. Tapi dia dapatnya bukan dari saya, meskipun saya guru bahasa Inggris kan. Cuma karena saya sering bawa dia di sekolah, saya mengajar dia dengar, dia imitate apa yang bisa dia tiru, kemudian dia belajar YouTube, ya kan banyak sekarang konten-konten anak yang menggunakan bahasa Inggris, mulai dari warna atau apalah begitu. Jadi dia itu sampai 4 tahun, sir, dia itu sudah pintar membaca karena dia belajar dari YouTube tadi. Kemudian kami buat juga kelas di sana untuk anak-anak yang belum pintar membaca dan menulis. Jadi kami perkenalkan itu abjad dari situ, menghitung, kemudian caranya membaca dari awal, menambah-nambah, misalnya BA baca, aja begitu. Dia tiru lagi sampai 4 tahun itu. Saya tidak tahu sampai dia masuk SD itu dia pintar membaca dengan fasih. Dan bahkan saya tidak pernah mengajari.
Berarti anakmu multilingualism.
Iya.
Nah, itu yang multilingualism.
Saya tidak pernah mengajari untuk kamu harus belajar seperti ini.
Dia ada bakat ya.
Berarti memang pemimpin yang cerdas.
Iya, betul. Genetika turun dari ya.
Genetik juga berperan di sana.
Ibu, dari ibu bukan dari bapak.
Saya apa yang diajarkan first language itu di keluarga harus ethnic language.
Bahasa daerah ya.
Ya, harus ethnic language. Nah, caranya adalah every day, every time in the at home, he would speak in Bugis language every day. Karena kenapa? Anggapannya begini. Indonesian language can be learned at school.
Ya.
Katanya kalau bahasa Indonesia kamu masuk sekolah nanti kamu belajar karena guru menjelaskan bahasa Indonesia. Tetapi ethnic language belum tentu diajarkan di sekolahmu. So the first language you have to be master is local language, gitu katanya. Jadi pola pengajarannya berbeda, terbalik dia.
Iya.
Malah harus local language duluan baru Indonesian language.
Iya, betul sekali. Iya, bahasa pertama. Jadi itu yang dibilang immersion. Pencelupan kalau di. Jadi immersion program ada immersion. Anak-anak, terutama anak-anak, kalau orang dewasa susah. Tapi orang dewasa juga. Saya lihat orang Italia, orang Vietnam di Australia akhirnya bisa juga. Asal dia bergaul. Kalau dia cuma di rumah toh ya dia tidak bisa. Akhirnya bahasa tapi logat bahasa Inggris, logat Italia, bahasa Inggris. Di Australia kan banyak orang-orang Eropa, bukan orang Inggris. Bahasa Inggris, logat Yunani. Kedengaran tapi mereka balogat. Nah, immersion masih anak-anak langsung dibawa ke Australia kayak anak saya. Mau tidak mau di sekolah dia harus dengar kiri kanan, acquire, and he or she is immersed. Ya, sama dibuang ke air, pasti basah. Itu yang dibilang immersion, basah. Mereka ditempatkan di tengah-tengah orang berbahasa Inggris, mau tidak mau setiap hari mendengar. Akhirnya immerse, akhirnya acquire the language, bukan tapi memperoleh. Anak-anak cepat, tapi masalah biasa tulisan, karena tulisan dan bacaan beda. Ya itu. Ya mereka harus belajar lagi tulisan. Sama kalau Anda ke Bali, nenek-nenek ya, ina-ina apa nenek-nenek, pasti bahasa Jepang, bahasa Inggris. Bye this very good apa lancar, tapi ketika disuruh menulis tidak bisa menulis, itu bedanya. Tapi mereka acquire, memperoleh bahasa.
Saya tahu sekali memperoleh bahasanya dari lingkungan. Dia itu malas sekali kalau namanya menulis. Nanti pas SD baru mau menulis. Nanti setelah diminta gurunya, tapi dia paham cara menulis. Cuma dia tidak mau menulis kalau disuruh. Dia lebih suka bercerita.
Oh iya, dia
speak.
lisan ya.
Iya,
Lisan.
lebih suka speak daripada writing.
Iya, speech daripada writing.